Donald Trump calls for the Republican Party to come together and have people drop out. And, well, I'm going to tell you why I don't like that idea and what people should be doing instead. But we'll go over that. And some of the latest on the press conference that's supposed to be coming on Monday. In other news, a Texas woman is charged with threatening a federal judge overseeing the Trump case. Is she a plant? Is she real? Honestly, at this one, I can't completely tell, but we'll talk about that, what's happening there, and where we go with that. President Biden uses a pseudonym when he is referred to conversations with the Ukraine and other European entities, Robert L. Peters, but hey, 10% more for Robert L. Peters, I guess, for the big guy. We'll go over that, what's happening there, and what we do with that. And Chris Christie now overcomes DeSantis with New Hampshire voters in one of the latest polls. DeSantis remains ahead, but who knows for how long. It is going to be all of this and more, plus things I like and things that I hate tonight at the drop of the show. And you get a shiver in the dark. It's raining in the park, but meantime, south of the river, you stop and you hold everything. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Quest, why the hell are you still at the office at 7 o'clock at night? Because you're on Eastern time. You are a time zone over for me, but I do appreciate you coming in and joining the stream. We do have a lot. Well, I can't even say those words today. We don't have a lot to go over here today. By the way, because Quest is here, and Quest is a longtime viewer of the program from way back in the beginning, Quest will remember a time like this when Contemporary ran. Did you guys remember the beginning when Contemporary ran 40 minutes? Those of you, and comment too if you're sitting back on the playback too, or say something in the live chat as well. But yeah, remember back when the show used to take 30 to 40 minutes? There are only 15 articles on the main stack this morning. Plus finance brings us up to 21 technically, because I had a stub of an article that I added in there to add to the layoffs report. And I mean, we do have a fair amount of things I like and things that I hate at the end of the show today. So that's what's sad enough is that things I like and things I hate is probably going to take longer than the main segment today. But we're going to get right into it so we can get done. By the way, reminder for those of you who watch Brew's channel, after this, I'm on with Brew again tomorrow night, or tonight rather. We came up with a topic while we were live last week, so we're going to go back and cover that today. We're going to be talking about e-thottery over on Twitch. So as we get to the bottom of the show, I will get the link in the chat for that so you guys know where to go with that. And yeah, we might only be here and out. Well, I don't know. Again, things I like and things that I hate there's a fair amount of stuff on there, but let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out great programming such as the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys, Tweets by Brit, Mr. Behavior, the No Gimmicks Podcast, Silent Caster, Clown World Chronicles with Papa Palpatine, and Overruled with KTZed, which, by the way, if you watch the videos of KTZed, you will be seeing yours truly, if she can figure out what happened with the recording, very, very, very shortly coming up in that. So she hit me up at the very end of the show and just kind of blindsided me and surprised me with an episode of Crime Land, a pre-recorded one. So I'll be over there the next time she puts that up, and once I have details of that, I will let you know, and I will take the audio recording and, as always, put it on the audio platform for you, which, by the way, I've got a backlog of that too, so that'll be coming up in the near future here. But let's get into the little bit of news that we have today. with our finance and everything else with this, and let's get started. Head on over to here. Don't do the mute. No mute, no mute, no mute. And let's go. Live chat up here. Of course, always feel free to stick around and say what you feel in the news as you go. I do catch up with chat. I keep the Rumble chat and the main chat up at all times. The main chat is on the screen, so you can air your grievances and be heard by the world. So let's get into it and let's get started. Quest Fanning says, do you understand what means an entire time zone over? Yes, you live in Eastern time. You're an hour ahead of me. So is Mogwai, by the way. That's the idea. I'm still at the office. I don't know why. Mogwai says, yes, come together right now. Over me. And Quest shares when he can, which is much appreciated, by the way. That does make me happy that he comes back out here and checks us out and shares everything out to his, what's the final total? 11,000 Twitter followers? All right, let's get into it. Let's get started. On the Dow today, the Dow tanked. Well, yeah, it did kind of tank today. It did start off just a little bit up, beginning out throughout the day before dropping out a little bit before noon Eastern or Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. It tried to rally again and then just it couldn't hold. The bottom fell out, and we are at 34,474.83 points. That is down 290.91 points, or 0.84% on the day today, with the futures looking like they are pointing upward again, which is probably good because we're kind of getting back to that point where you can't go anywhere but up. But we will see what happens with that and where that goes as we look into our recession fears, which I think is driving a lot of this here. Looking at your Bitcoin, whoo, did Bitcoin tank today? It did recover some, but it was almost 3,000 points down at one point. I'm sorry, almost $4,000 down at one point. The Bitcoin ending the day at $26,344 US and 60 US cents. That is down after the recovery, mind you, a whopping $2,355 US and 90 US cents. I might have to go close my window. We're gonna see if that picks up. I know it's picking up, but we'll see if that stays on. No, I think he's gonna get up and finish up and go. A whopping 8.21% drop on the Bitcoin, and that again, that's after recovering. At one point here, the Bitcoin dropped 12% on the day, but that is what we see for that. And it was steady almost throughout the day. It didn't move for most of the day. Well, again, I don't think we're going to be doing this for very long, so we'll let him go. We'll let the man work. And let's look at our gas prices for the day. Mostly unchanged from yesterday. The quick trips on the east side and most of the other stations on the east side are holding at 340, 346 on the entrance to the Isthmus coming into Madison. On the west side, between 360 and 370, depending on which station you go to and how close you get to the middle of town. This is the same that we've seen for the last 3 days, with a little bit of reprieve on one side of town and the steady holding on the other. Remember, these are not your local gas prices. Check your local listings to see where you're at, and this is kind of a weird pattern to see because I can't tell you whether I think it's going to go up or it's going to go down in your local area because, well, it only went down on half the city, on half the market that we continue to watch day in and day out. But hey, if you're on the east side of Madison, you won. And if you're on the west side, well, go visit the east side. Somebody you know has to live over on the east side. Go get some gas over there. And that is your gas report for the day. Actually, I don't have the live chat up like I should. I promise you guys I'd read it as it goes, but I don't have it up. Every single time I can, I share live. Yes, you do. 12.7 thousand, says Quest Fanning. All right, our finance report today comes from CNBC. Dow tumbles nearly 300 points as stocks fall for the third straight day and yields pop from Ha-Kyung Kim and Pia Singh. Stocks slid for a third session on Thursday as investors digested the latest round of earnings and economic data. And as rates jumped to fresh highs, the Dow dropped 290.91 points or 0.84% to close at 34,474.83. It was the first time the 30-stock Dow closed below the 50-day moving average since June 1st, a potential warning sign of a downtrend. Meanwhile, the S&P fell 0.77% and ended the session at 4370.36. The Nasdaq declined 1.17%, the big loser on the day, falling to 13,316.93. The 10-year yield reached its highest point since October 2022 on Thursday. Rates are continuing to run higher after the Federal Reserve's July meeting minutes, released on Wednesday, showed the central banks remains concerned about the upside risk to inflation. Walmart fell more than 2% even after reporting earnings and revenue beat in this fiscal second quarter. I'm going to talk like Biden already, man. I didn't sleep well last night, so there's that aspect of it. The company also raised its full-year guidance and underscored strength in grocery and online sales because, hey, food is a whopping 17% up from where it was before the pandemic. On a positive note, computer networking company Cisco gained more than 3% on better-than-expected quarterly earnings report. Stocks have been suffering through a rocky August, with the major averages headed towards another losing week and in negative territory for the month. The broad market index is down more than 4% in August. I felt after the strong rally in the first half and even continuing into July that some caution was warranted, said Commonwealth Financial Network portfolio manager Chris Fasciano. So certainly what's happening now isn't unexpected, and a bit of pullback could ultimately end up being healthy for the market in general. So that is what we have. For our finance report today, buckle yourselves in if you guys have a retirement, especially that's dependent on the Dow, because it's going to get ugly for a little while. We'll see what happens with this and if this continues throughout the rest of the year. Your layoffs report today coming in a split, but both for the same company. Bankrupt trucking company Yellow reveals Wisconsin job cuts. So we've got a report from my state and then one from Washington state as well. And I did the math on this already. So from Nick Viviani, embattled trucking company Yellow Corporation, it's not embattled anymore, it's done. Revealed the number of layoffs that have happened in Wisconsin while the company cut jobs all over the state. The hardest hit areas were in Winnebago and Milwaukee counties. Weird. Two of the most populous counties in this state. Weird. I wonder why they would have the most layoffs. The Department of Workforce Development website showed the layoffs were reported to the State Labor Agency on Tuesday. According to DWD's list of new job cuts, Yellow stated the cuts had occurred approximately 2 weeks earlier, towards the end of July. Oak Creek and Neenah both saw job losses in the mid-80s, and the company reported and a total of 46 positions were cut in Toma, in south-central Wisconsin. Nearly a dozen were lost between Madison and Portage. In all, Yellow eliminated 261 jobs in Wisconsin. Wow, I wish I had pre-read that because I wouldn't have to sit there and do all the math, because that's actually the figure I came up with too. Whoops. And right above there, it would have told me. Wow, I feel stupid right now. Anyway, affected workers in Madison, 10, Eau Claire, 9, Mosinee, 24, Neenah, 86, which is the Winnebago County one, Oak Creek, which is Milwaukee County, is 85, Portage is 1. One person lost their job in Columbia County. Toma, 45, that's over on my neck of the woods now that I moved. And then another person just errantly lost their job in Toma. So that's 261 plus from the business journals. Out of Puget Sound, Yellow Corporation bankruptcy leads to more than 400 Washington layoffs. From Mark Riley, trucking company Yellow Corporation, which filed for bankruptcy earlier this month, employed more than 400 Washington workers who will lose their jobs as the company liquidates. Now, this is for subscribers only. Continue reading with your $4 subscription. No, thank you, but I will point out 261 jobs in Wisconsin, 400 in Washington, give or take an average of about 300 people, multiplied by lower 48 states. I don't think that they have a big presence in Alaska and Hawaii. Obviously not Hawaii. But even still, you're looking at, 300 times 50 is 15,000 jobs. And then even if you take off the 600 for the two states that we left out, That's 14,400 jobs across the country. If we hold trends, and even if we, come in and point out the fact that there are some states that have less and some that have more, give or take, I would still say this is probably a good 12 to 13,000 job loss under the Biden admin. But don't worry, everything is fine. Let's see, Mogwai says, Sugar, one of my times to see is handyman, the tools in their utility belts. Well, that gives the series I've been watching a little bit of a new twist. We'll save that for next week, of course, but just a, usually when I'm watching something new on Netflix or the streaming services, I tell you guys about it, and I've been watching Home Improvement. We'll watch the trailer for that next week on things I like and things that I hate. Quest Pending says, I had to pause, but I will tell you, you're next on my list of friends after the 80 plus I've met IRL. You're just really far away. Yeah, I am. We have in common several friends. I think it matters that we appreciate quality people. Well, I do appreciate you, Quest Fanning. I do. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to purchase property yet, so I won't be able to put you up because I live in a closet right now, but I'll still go out and have dinner with you. There's apparently, if we go into the city, there's apparently a distillery somewhere that I really want to try. Sounds delicious. All right, let's take our news from Trump World first. We're going to do Trump World and Biden World, then we'll catch up with everything else, and then we will close out with things I like and things that I hate. From Breaking 911. Trump, the party should come together. People should drop out of the race. Let's listen to his video announcement from Breaking 911.
Great polls just out. Leading by 40, 50, and even 60 points. Who expected that? I did. Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, all very strong, but also leading Biden very big. The sanctimonious is crashing. Perhaps the party should come together. People should drop out of the race. We unify, and we beat Biden and the Democrats. They should be easy to beat because our country has never been in worse condition than it is right now. Thank you.
Now, see, you say this should be easy to beat, but your people and DeSantis' people can't stop fighting with each other. And at current point, I would stand here and say if either one of those camps decided not to come out and vote for the other camp, I wouldn't blame them. But we do have polling, fresh polling as well. So let's get over and check that out. Let me grab this and undock this and dock this over here just to see what we have. And on the national, yeah, Trump is still leading by 40 points. Well, not quite 40 points. 39.9 over DeSantis in the national GOP primary poll, with fresh polling coming out of Iowa, putting him not as far ahead of DeSantis, but still up there. 30 points over in New Hampshire. On the Dems, Biden, obviously, with the incumbent advantage, is going to hold up to the top. The betting averages. Presidency still has Biden up on the betting averages, which Vegas doesn't like to lose money. And that's part of where I look and see that this is probably going to be 4 more years of, come on, man. Biden's disapproval still at a 13.6 spread. But I want to look at some of the polls. Get rid of this video here. Come on. They've got RCP pollster scorecards, Biden job approval, direction of the country, election 24 polls. This is what we want. Yeah, and our latest ones, presidential nomination, Trump plus 37 on the Fox News and the Trafalgar, Trump plus 38. Let's get the averages on this. Yep, 54.7 over 14.8 is your average, with definitely some big polls still holding him up towards the top. And some of these where DeSantis is getting beat I mean, he's still a favorite under most of the polling that we see here, but we've got the one, Signal. They don't give me a sample size of this, but actually has Ramaswamy up 11% over 10%. And I thought there was a New Hampshire one where Christie actually jumped up over DeSantis too, but it does not look like that is the case. But yeah, we are starting to see some of these things eclipse and see. And the Donald is running away with it post-indictment. Honestly, realistically, I still think that there are a lot of people that look at the indictments and think that this is a railroad, and I think that he's starting to push to independence when he does it. And I don't know what's going to happen in November of next year. I don't have a crystal ball. There's no Santeria getting practiced around here. But what I can say is the people who are going to vote, grocery shop, and they remember because it was only 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, how much easier it was to go and grocery shop in 2018, 2019. So, but as far as getting everybody to go back out and drop out of the race, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. It's not because I like any of these other people who are running. I don't. I think they're a bunch of goofballs, and most of them are just out looking to raise their public profile so they can either run for another office, sell a book, or do something else with their lives. I don't think really anybody else in the race has true ideals, and if you want me to be completely honest, I don't think that any of them stand a chance, other than, again, to go back out and make themselves famous and appealing to the Uniparty because, hey, I stood up against the evil Orange Man. But what I will say this, I have always encouraged there to be more people in primaries than what there are. I think that there should be more people in the Democrat primary. I think that even your school board race should have 2 or 3 people on each party so that we have a primary. So the good ideas come to the top and the bad ideas sink to the bottom. That's always been my stance off of this. Debate and let the people show instead of just having people drop out in a forced fashion. I was about to say generically, but that's the opposite of what I was looking for. Drop out in a forced fashion before the people actually have the chance to get their voices heard. It's cool to see the polls and everything else in the small sample sizes, to see just how bad DeSantis is getting walloped after putting out something like SB 269. But realistically, we're not going to see anything until we start to see the primary votes pull in the Iowa caucus votes. That's what I'm most interested in, and I do think DeSantis is going to stay there throughout. And in Iowa, the funniest part of that is we can always have a big wild card. You remember on the Dem side who won the Iowa caucus last year? I do. It was Mayor Pete. But that is where we are at with that from Politico. The Donald says he plans to hold a press conference responding to Georgia indictment. From Kira Frazier. Former President Trump says he will hold a press conference this coming Monday in response to a Georgia grand jury indicting Trump and 18 allies on racketeering charges. Trump claimed in a Truth Social post Tuesday that he had a report from his team, which was conducted on the presidential election fraud, and that all of the charges should be dropped based on the findings of that report, which I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I kind of want to hear this report at this point. Officials in the past have found no evidence of... They didn't say the word. Officials in the past have found no evidence of election fraud. That's false. They have found it. They have found no evidence of widespread election fraud, but the allegations have spread widely across conservative media since the election. Yeah, 80 million votes, folks. A large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud, which took place in Georgia, is almost complete, and will be presented by me, your favorite president, at a major news conference at 11 a.m. on Monday of next week in Bedminster, Trump said in a post. The press conference is scheduled just days before Fulton County District Attorney Penny Willis said Trump and his co-defendants are expected to surrender on August 25th. So, that's what he's saying that he's going to do, and I think some of the paid chills are already coming out saying that he himself has walked it back. I didn't find any articles to corroborate that he himself has walked it back, but his lawyers are sure trying to. From ABC, Trump's legal advisors urge him to cancel press conference to refute Georgia allegations from Catherine Falders. And, by the way, Mogwai's cat is who's bringing this to us. Unnamed sources. Former President Trump promised a press conference to refute the allegations of the indictment handed up by the Fulton County District Attorney's Office is now very much in doubt. Multiple sources familiar with the matter tell ABC News. Sources tell ABC News that Trump's legal advisors have told him that holding such a press conference with dubious claims of voter fraud will only complicate his legal problems, and some of his attorneys have advised him to cancel it. Trump announced the planned press conference in a social media post shortly after he and 18 co-defendants were indicted late Monday in Georgia. He said he would present a large, complex, detailed, but irrefutable report on the presidential election fraud which took place in Georgia. And as much as I want to see this thing, and I do very much want to see this report, very, very, very much want to see this report. If I was Trump's attorney, I would be saying the same thing. Shut up, stop it, don't do this. For two reasons. Number one, anything you say or do can be used against you in a court of law. And while, with him coming out with whether or not it's irrefutable, the paid chills are going to find a way to refute it no matter what. But whether or not he comes out with it and it's irrefutable, the logical side of this would be that this would put an end to the DC case and possibly the racketeering case, because the RICO charges themselves don't, but the allegations the RICO charges are based on require intent. The same with everything coming out of the January 6th case that Jack Smith put together for Washington, D.C. All four of those require intent, which require irrefutable proof that Trump knew that he lost the election. And for him to come back out with this allegation that says there's irrefutable proof would basically tell the entire world immediately that he did not know that he lost the election. But now, with that being said, I think that if there actually is irrefutable proof, I think that it would be good for the country to come back out and see this. But from a legal standpoint, from a court standpoint, and from a lawyer standpoint, the presentation of this, once the indictments are done and, well, basically, he hasn't been arrested yet, but he is scheduled to by this, not this coming Friday, but the next Friday. But since the indictments have come, this all belongs in a courtroom now. And if this is true, if this is real, and what he's saying is real, then that hands all of his attorneys a slam dunk case, especially if the prosecution's not expecting to see this kind of evidence come through. And on the other avenue of that, if he comes out with a big paper and comes out and says, "Here's your irrefutable proof, right here. More votes than anybody other president in history. Biden's a fraud." Number one, there is no mechanism to put him back in office. That's the first side of this. And number two, and the more important side of this, is that gives, before he even goes through, does the perp walk, does the mock check, or anything, the prosecution the ability to go back in and start picking it apart and finding whatever weakness they can find in it. Don't give your enemy that kind of cannon fodder. And yes, in Discovery they're going to have the ability to go back and pick it apart, but I mean, don't give them a 6-month advantage on that. Why would you do that? All right, in the document case, speaking of which, from CBS News, Texas woman charged with threatening federal judge overseeing Trump's January 6th case from Barris Tanos. A Texas woman is arrested last week on allegations that she sent a threatening and racist voicemail to the federal judge in D.C. who was randomly assigned to oversee the Texas Department's election interference case against the former president. According to a criminal complaint filed last week on the night of August 5th, prosecutors allege that Abigail Jo Schrei left a voicemail for Tanya Chutkan, who is black, and said, in part, "You are in our sights, we want to kill you." Don't buy it. In a message to Chutkan, Schrei alleged that Trump were not to be elected president in 24. We're coming to kill you, and you will be targeted personally, publicly, your family, all of it, per the complaint. Now, a couple of avenues of that, and I have pointed out numerous times that the vast majority of the MAGA side of the aisle is a coalition of former Democrats who were displaced by the progressive agenda of the Democrat Party. There's that avenue to things, which tells me and makes me ask the question of why wouldn't they act like Democrats if that's what they came into. But the other side of this is just, it's too perfect, it's too on the nose, it's too on point. I would like to see what Schrei's voting record actually looks like. I would. In the voicemail, Schrei also made similar threats against Sheila Jackson Lee of Texas, who is also black, along with threats against the LGBTQI/RAMIGIXTBYAEIOU community. The complaint reads, 3 days after the call, special agents with the Department of Homeland Security visited Schrei's home in the city of Alvin, located in the Houston metropolitan area, where she allegedly admitted to having made the call. Court records state. And again, if she made the call, if she did the thing, yeah, haul her ass off. Because don't do that. We're not Democrats. We don't do that kind of shit. It's kind of sickening that there's a double standard, and any call like this that would have gone to Trump or any of his attorneys, and it's happened, would have gone completely ignored. Regardless, don't do that. We're not like them. On the other side of the aisle, somebody who actually, and this isn't a threat, by the way, this is an actual act, which is completely different. Quebec woman who sent Trump poison letter, sentenced to 22 years in prison. Pascal Ferrier pleaded guilty to 9 biological weapons charges. Pretty sure that's a dude. A Quebec woman has been sentenced to nearly 22 years after sending a poison-laced letter to former U.S. President Donald Trump. Pascal Ferrier, 56, agreed to the sentence as part of a plea agreement back in January, but D.C. District Court Judge Dabney Friedrich didn't sign off until today. The French-born Ferrier pleaded guilty to a total of 9 biological weapons charges, each of which carries a potential maximum sentence of life in prison. She was arrested at the Canadian-U.S. border in September of 2020 and charged with sending Trump a threatening letter laced with the homemade poison ricin. The letter, intercepted 2 months before the 2020 election, described Trump as an ugly tyrant clown and urged him to give up the race. 8 of the 9 charges are tied to an indictment in Texas, where Ferrier was accused of sending similar letters to police and prison officials. Well, that sounds like somebody incredibly charming. Didn't one of these go to Millie? And he kind of looked at that and says, oh, this looks good. I'm going to use this stuff to make Rice and Krispie treats. And yeah, I mean, 22 years, that seems light. And I know the discussion in the Discord was, nobody's above the law, except when you attempt murder 9 times and you only get 22 years. But yeah, nobody's above the law. Shifting gears here, going into Biden world from the Daily Mail. Then VP Joe Biden used a pseudonym, Robert L. Peters, in emails to Hunter about Ukraine business. GOP ramps up Biden family corruption probe and demands National Archives hand over records from Kelly Lako. Republicans are seeking records revealing Biden's use of pseudonyms to discuss his activities related to Ukraine with son Hunter during his time as president. They specifically want an unredacted document that indicates that then Vice President Biden took a call with Petro Poroshenko, the former president of the Ukraine, on May 27, 2016. Republicans say the document was emailed to Robert L. Peters, which is a pseudonym the House Oversight Committee has identified as then Vice President Biden. A letter obtained by the DailyMail.com states. Additionally, the committee questions why the then Vice President's son Hunter, and only Hunter, was copied on this email to then Vice President Biden. Joe Biden used various private email addresses from which he would sometimes send, receive, or forward government correspondence, according to emails found on Hunter's now infamous laptop. Robin Ware, Robert L. Peters, and JRB were the three pseudonyms used on emails that were about both official and family business. Oh, I'm sorry, JRB Ware. I was about to say, why would JRB be a pseudonym? Those are actually his initials, but I didn't see the Ware at the end of that. The Republicans seek any document or communications that include Robert Peters, Robin Ware, and JRB Ware as senders or recipients. They also demand communications between Hunter and his business partners, Devin Archer and Eric Schwerin. Chairman Comer of the House Oversight Committee sent a letter obtained by DailyMail.com to the archivist of the U.S. Colleen Shogan on Thursday, asking for unrestricted special access to email messages to and or from Vice President Biden and Hunter Biden related to Burisma in Ukraine. Again, this is not the smoking gun. We can come back out and ask questions about why, if everything was legal and above board, he had to go back and use pseudonyms. But this is not the smoking gun. What this does do, again, points us into the right direction to come back out and find the smoking gun. And there do seem to be a lot of arrows to it. Nobody's found the smoking gun yet, but every time a story like this pops up, it appears that there's another arrow that's pointing to the smoking gun. Here is the letter. We will look at this. Actually, let me open this up in a new tab so I can blow it up. Oh, apparently that's all that I get. Dear Dr. Shogan, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability investigating President Biden's meetings and communications with certain family members and their business associates during his former tenure as the Vice President, the National Archives and Records Administration has published the Biden Vice Presidential Records Collection, which contains information relevant to the committee's work. Let's move forward to what it is that they want to point out here. It is concerning to the committee, however, that this document was sent to Robert Peters, a pseudonym the committee has identified as then Vice President Biden. Additionally, the committee questions why the Vice President's son, Hunter Biden, and only Hunter, was copied on the email to then Vice President Biden. And as I always say when we look at something like this, okay, Comer, you've got something here. Now do something with it. Don't just let this sit and languish and stagnate. Do something with it. From the Blaze, some more Biden news. Biden gave New York City $104 million for migrant crisis, and only $24 million to border state, fumes Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, which some cracks coming into the Democratic coalition and caucus. I can't say the party anymore because Sinema dropped that party like a bad habit. But let's read from the Blaze from Candace Hathaway. Rice and Krispy Treats will be my March Madness bracket name. That's awesome. I like that. Arizona Senator Kyrsten Sinema, a former Democrat, slammed the Biden admin and Democrat leaders for providing New York City with over $104 million to address the migrant crisis, while only providing Arizona with less than $24 million. Sinema, now a registered independent, told Politico in an interview published Wednesday that she's livid about the admin's decision to provide more funding to New York City than to a border state out on the front lines of the migrant crisis. In June, it was revealed that Biden's White House would provide New York City with $104.6 million of an $800 million new shelter services program grant. The Arizona senator noted that she only learned how much New York City would receive of those funds when House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer issued a press release. I don't know if you noticed, but the announcement about the $104 million came out first in a joint press release from Schumer and Jeffries, not from the White House or from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Cinema told Politico. Well, one of the big things with that, of course, is that New York City will launder some of that money and donate that back to the Biden campaign. In Arizona, maybe not so much. And of course, these migrants are supposed to stay in Arizona. They're not supposed to make it to New York. But I mean, is anybody really surprised at this point? I know that turning Arizona into deep, deep blue territory is the latest pet project of the California Democrats especially, but Democrat Party in general, but you're not there yet. Which means you're not going to get the kind of money that a deep blue stronghold like New York City does. All right, from the Daily Wire, House Republicans looking into use of nonprofits to improperly influence election. From Leif LeMahieu. Republicans on the House Ways and Means Committee are looking into the reported use of tax-exempt groups to potentially influence elections and funnel foreign money into U.S. elections. Jason Smith of Missouri and David Schweikert of Arizona explained their concerns with certain activities by tax-exempt groups during elections in an open letter seeking to input on current IRS and congressional regulations. The committee has learned that the Super Political Action Committee recommended donations to a 501c3 organizations as the single most effective tactic for ensuring democratic victories, and that large donations from a wealthy donor to state election offices in 2020 may have been done in a manner that helps one political party over another. The letter from Smith and Schweikert says, additionally, the committee has also found that significant amounts of foreign money is flowing through 501c3 and 501c4 organizations to influence elections. Dude, everybody knew that already. The letter says that while 501c3s can engage in certain types of political activities, there are certain interventions that are banned, such as get out the vote and voter registration efforts that are done in a partisan manner. Really? Then why do they still happen? Are there any tax-exempt organizations whose voter education or registration activities you suspect might have had the effect of favoring a candidate or a group of candidates, which would constitute prohibited participation or intervention? If yes, please describe those activities. The letter asks. Yeah, any 501c3 that's based in Madison, Wisconsin. The Republicans also ask whether there should be any new congressional legislation to amend the official IRS definition of a political campaign intervention in light of new forms of political advocacy. Yeah, Vote in the Park was entirely organized by a nonprofit. I'm sorry, Democracy in the Park was entirely organized by a nonprofit. If you've ever paid attention to politics in the state of Wisconsin, you know that this is happening already. Claudia Tenney said that there was work to be done to check tax-exempt organizations and counter Democrat election operations. We're going to look into whether they're abusing the IRS rules in order to get all kinds of money, whether it's foreign money or Sam Bankman-Fried's mother funneling money in there to target certain types of voters in certain demographics and swing states to make sure that they get those votes, those votes in, she told Just the News. I mean, I'm glad that somebody's finally looking into this, but this is one of the oldest tricks in the book. What do you think they're doing, by the way, when every Democrat candidate out there throws up their secure.actblue.com link, which doesn't actually go to the candidate themselves, it goes into a massive slush fund. None of this is news, folks. All right, some more election news here. We're actually 45 minutes in. We're almost done with the news portion. From the New York Post, Christie leapfrogs DeSantis with New Hampshire voters' latest 2024 poll finds. From Victor Nava, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has pulled ahead of Ron DeSantis in New Hampshire, according to a new survey of voters in the early presidential primary state. Christie is in second place, and by the way, that did not show up on the RCP aggregate yet. Christie is in second place in the Granite State, well behind embattled former President Trump, but leading DeSantis, who has fallen to single digits amid a flurry of recent campaign team shakeups and strategy shifts, the Emerson College poll released Tuesday shows. No, on the aggregate, he's still in double digits. The new poll of 837 registered New Hampshire voters conducted between August 9th and August 11th pegs support for Trump 77 and 49%. Christie garnered the support of 9% of voters, and DeSantis received 8% of supporters. DeSantis' support in New Hampshire has plummeted since March, when Emerson found the Sunshine State governor receiving the backing of 17% of the voter. Christie's 1-point lead over him falls within the latest poll's 3.4 percentage point margin of error. Again, single polls are bullshit. Always look at the aggregate. DeSantis has been the alternative to Trump and Emerson polling this presidential cycle. This is the first time we have seen DeSantis drop out of second place in our polling and fall back into the pack of candidates. Spencer Kimball, the executive director of Emerson College Polling, explained in a statement. So, we'll see. Again, I do want to see viable candidates get as far as they can, but I have never found, even before he announced, I have never found DeSantis to be a viable candidate. He just isn't. He might have been, except he cannot get out of his own way. He can't stop stepping on his own damn feet. I only got a 17% raise and a 17% bonus in December. Boo-hoo. Well, I mean, I got about that much of a raise, but I got overtime to carry me up over the edge too. I've heard anecdotally that many friends are less fortunate. Yeah, if it wasn't for overtime, I wouldn't be anywhere close to that. Something I had on things I like and things that I hate, but I moved back to the main side of things. From the USA Today, Joe Manchin says he has absolutely considered leaving the Democratic Party. From Marina Pitovsky, Joe Manchin revealed in a new interview that he has absolutely thought about leaving the Democrat Party to become an independent lawmaker. I've been thinking about this for quite some time, Manchin told West Virginia's Metro News Talkline show in a Thursday interview. The brand has become so bad, the D brand and the R brand. In West Virginia, the D brand, because it's nationally bad. It's not the Democrats in West Virginia, it's the Democrats in Washington and Washington policies, which we'll be talking about in a bit. You've heard me say a million times that I'm not a Washington Democrat, the lawmaker added. The centrist Democrat also said he believes the business of politics has gotten so absolutely toxic. Manchin faces a tough Senate re-election bid next year, though he has long flirted with the possibility of an independent presidential campaign. He is probably, and they're talking about this too, he is probably going to be the candidate for the No Labels Party, which may be the thing that tanks Biden. Because given who they have on the ticket and who they have coming out and joining the No Labels Party, it does seem to heavily favor Dems, and not only Dems, but Union Dems, the people who migrated to MAGA. And while the majority of MAGA remains religiously attached to Donald Trump, and of course the GOP continues to look back and say, okay, vote red, we're all dead. I do see the No Labels pulling off the rest of the non-progressive Democrats if they continue going down the line that they do. So Manchin, I think he's setting up for that. I think that they are going to call him all kinds of names and all kinds of slurs, and, well, just like I say with RFK, he might get himself a gift from the Clinton Foundation of a shiny new custom, because they don't make one off the factory line, a shiny new custom Lincoln convertible. And asked to go take a parade tour in his shiny new Lincoln convertible somewhere where there's a grassy knoll. The Daily Wire. This is just... I should have put this on things that I hate, but we're going to do it now. Minnesota Department of Natural Resources concerned with bringing more non-white visitors to state parks. Well, as a person who would have been otherwise a visitor to state parks in Minnesota, given the vicinity to Minnesota that I now live in, I'm going to say you can take your state parks and shove them up your Minneapolis ass from Corinne Murdoch. Somehow I'm 28 minutes behind. Well, you dropped out for a little while, but 28 minutes is over half the show. We're only 51 minutes in. But hey, you can listen on the audio platform after the fact. The Minnesota Department of Natural Resources will focus their resources on bringing in more non-white visitors to their state parks. MDNR issued a renewed commitment to diversity following their latest quinquennial survey. The 2022 State Park Visitor Study, released Tuesday. In a press release, MDNR Parks and Trails Director Ann Pierce said the state agency needed to do more for inclusivity, in reference to their date that only 11% more visitors weren't white. The visitor study shows that Minnesota DNR is making progress toward our goal of inclusivity, though there's still more work to do, said Pierce. We will continue our efforts to expand access to public lands for traditionally underserved communities, and to welcome new visitors to outdoor recreation in state parks. And I mean, I know that I'm not talking about the state park here, but I've seen this done in state parks too. You know what they do in Wisconsin to get more people onto the trails, onto the city parks, the municipal parks, the state parks, and the county parks? To get more diversity in there? You know what they do? They open up the park and say, everybody's welcome. And walk the fuck away. Excuse my language. The study divided participants into two groups, white and BIPOC. Biracial and multiracial individuals were classified as BIPOC. The single drop rule, of course. You know, the ones that the plan used to use. Along with any participants who reported to be American Indian, Alaskan Native, Asian or Asian American, Black, African American, Hispanic, Latino, Middle Eastern, North African, Native Hawaiian, or Pacific Islander. Again, just open up the park and walk away. They want to go, they'll go. If they don't want to go, then they'll stay home. Yeah, I think, especially on this time slot, Quest Fanning, I think a lot of what I see here, and I know you're not going to hear this for like 15 minutes, but I think a lot of what I see here is just, this is more put it on in the background and make dinner. But KTZed gave me some tips here. I'm going to try to do some things to try to boost viewership and everything else. But it's a lot more lurkers on this time slot, which I appreciate my lurkers, I really do. I think they're kind of awesome, actually. I do appreciate the people who come by and just hang out and chill, but I think some of the people are shy, especially on the Rumble side. I get 10, 15, sometimes 20 people watching on the Rumble side at one time and almost never any chat. I don't know why that is. I thought the Rumble would be a little bit more spicy, honestly. From Insider. Russia got richer even as the war in Ukraine raged on last year, while the West shed trillions of dollars of wealth, from George Clover. Russians got richer last year, even as the war in Ukraine raged on, while the US and Europe lost trillions of dollars, UBS reported. Russia added $600 billion of total wealth, the Swiss bank found in its annual Global Wealth Report, published on Tuesday. The number of Russian millionaires also rose by about 56,000 to 408,000 in 2022, while the number of ultra-high net worth individuals, people worth over 50 million, jumped by nearly 4,500. But the US lost more wealth than any other country last year, shedding $5.9 trillion. Well, if you think about what they sent over to the Ukraine, while North America and Europe combined got just $10.9 trillion poorer. UBS reported. There were also 1 million fewer American millionaires by the end of 2022, although the US still accounted for over 50% of the world's ultra-high net worth individuals, the bank said. Russia's wealth gains came despite its invasion of Ukraine in February, which has led to West imposing sanctions on the Kremlin that led to its economy shrinking and triggered a slump for Moscow-listed stocks. UBS acknowledges the wealth trends in Russia are difficult to determine at the time, but did highlight as one of a handful of countries that had gotten richer in 2022. Well, you see, we stopped drilling oil over here. Well, we still drill oil, but we stopped using it as a net export. We are not encouraging growth, and mind you, teetering on the edge of a recession any day. We are laying off people left and right in this country. And on the world stage, because oil is a globally traded commodity, Russia, who turned the spigot on and kept going, and also has allies and trading partners in OPEC Plus, continue to go back out and sell at a premium with an artificially inflated price because of the global marketability of the oil. Gee, I wonder why Russia got richer. Not to mention, I don't believe for a second that all that cash and ammo and everything else we're sending over to Ukraine is staying in the Ukraine. I don't believe that for a second. I think a lot of that's going onto a black market, and a lot of that's going onto a black market in Russia. And the last one on main news of the day, just a little bit of disturbing news for you here from the New York Post. Furious furries fight back after busting man filming them on a beach. Let me read that for you one more time. Furious furries fight back after busting man filming them on the beach, from Emily Lefroy and Hannah Sparks. They strayed from the wolf pack and into a dog pile. The scuffle amongst furries amid a seaside meetup in California was caught on camera after a man who was reporting them without consent refused to leave. The altercation reportedly broke out at Hunting Beach on Saturday, according to a video posted on Twitter. In the 17-second long clip posted by @DogInReal, a man is seen filming a group of cartoonish animal costumes who were gathered as part of the Sunset Beach bonfire fur meet, pointing his phone at one member in particular, who in turn warned the intruder to leave. I mean, how do you take something seriously like that when a guy in a costume like that is telling you to leave? Soon the outsider, sporting a gray cap, black t-shirt, and blue jeans, holds his phone right up to the face of a furry in a black wolf costume. With a megaphone up to his mouth, the fetishist begins to demand that the onlooker leave, or we will make you leave, which fails to deter the filmmaker. The furry is then heard saying, "You can let go of this," as he gives the gawker a bonk on his head with a loudspeaker. It was at that moment a plain-dressed accomplice attempted to enter the fluffy kerfuffle and defend the cameraman at the same time as a fellow furry threw their support behind the canine cosplayer, and a sandy tussle ensued. What the hell is wrong with this country? Seriously. Like, okay, do what it is you gotta do to get off and make a bunch of babies, but still, like, where did we get this? I still remember a time where I didn't know what furries even were. I missed that time. There's a dude in a gigantic dude too, in a blue wolf costume at a Ren Fair in Massachusetts, and my girlfriend at the time explained that to me. What it meant. It was a blue wolf costume, and it's... I miss that time. I really do. Alright. Let's do a bunch of things that I like and a bunch of things that I hate. We're only 101 in, and we're already at things I like and things that I hate. So, I think a lot of people knew that I was going to talk about this because I talked about Try That in Small Town when it first came out. And this song is making the rounds, definitely. That's something that we should all listen to, definitely. It's a good song. I listened to it. I listened to it when I first heard about it, and then I listened to it again today a little bit more closely while I was setting up for everything. So this is, of course, Richmond, north of Richmond, a reference to Washington, D.C., which is north of Richmond, Virginia. And how this guy, who is, by the way, not a Democrat or a Republican. I know the Tim Pool video that's up here says, woke press claim Oliver Anthony's a plant. Well, no, he probably isn't. He's just a guy who wants to... Like, if he was a plant, he'd be coming out and screaming MAGA when he does this. But I think this guy, when I listen to this song, falls much more into where more of us are. I know that there's the religious fervor among the MAGA movement. There's the religious fervor among the corporate Democrat movement. And there is, of course, the absolute religious fervor over the progressive movement, because the latter of the two worship government. And the MAGA movement worships one man. But this is a guy, again, before we listen to a portion of the song, and we can't do the whole thing due to DMCA, obviously. But before we listen to a portion of the song, it's important, like if you do listen to the entire song, to hear that this is a guy who just, pretty much like me, wants to be completely left alone. No government interference. He just wants to get on, make money for his family, and not have to worry about what they're doing in DC. It's kind of how I am too. Like, I want to not care what's happening in DC at all. Unfortunately, because of regulations, taxes, etc., they put me in a position where I have to, but I would love to live my life and not even have to wonder about and worry about who the president is. I would give anything for that. But let's listen to a portion of Richmond, north of Richmond.
I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay, so I can sit out here and waste my life away, drag back home and drown my troubles away. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me, people like you. Wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control.
And that's the important part of this. And like, some of this is the way that, like, as somebody who analyzes news and politics, I can tell you right off the bat that very shortly after the Obama admin, we stopped being worried about what the stupid Kardashians were doing. Stopped worrying about what Chelsea Handler was doing. I can remember back when I wrote my blog, my initial blog, it was a lifestyle blog that had turned political, because that was what was getting piped into us. DC became Hollywood at some point. And yes, I will criticize the culture where we had to go back. And back in the lifestyle blog days, that was a thing that I did. Like, it was always about famous women that I thought were hot. I was doing dating, relationship advice, and things like that, and that was one of the things, because That was something that we all shared. I couldn't tell you 10 current working actresses right now. And I think if you really thought about it, a lot of people couldn't do it either. The lady, and I can't think of her name right now, who was supposed to be playing Snow White, I had never heard of her. And, like, supposedly everybody else in the world knew who this was, but I had never heard of this woman. Because so much of us, and yes, it's by design that the news is focused so much on what's happening in D.C. and not in our local government. They are piping it in like this for control. So we look at these as our celebrity betters. Let's listen to a little bit more of this.
Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men, 'cause the rich men. I wish politicians would look out for minors, and not just minors on an island somewhere. Lord, we got ain't got.
And really, honestly, I think that's a big part of the reason where they were coming up and saying that this is a MAGA right-wing song, is because he's doing the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And I can see where they're coming from off of that, honestly. But if you haven't checked out the whole song, we're gonna stop at that. But Oliver Anthony, which is not his real name, it is a pseudonym, but Oliver Anthony, Richmond, North of Richmond, check it out if you haven't heard it already, which I know because I wait until things I like and things that I hate on Thursday. I'm like 3 or 4 days behind on this one, but definitely go and check that out. But a follow-up to Oliver Anthony, from The Blaze, Oliver Anthony says he rejected $8 million deals from music executives in a heartfelt statement about his difficult life, which, there again, and that's a thing with the music industry. Don't ask me about it. Ask Stephen Ignoramus about it. He'll tell you. They want to go back and get you under contract, write songs for you, and get you out there based on the fact that you made this anthem for the regular person, so they control you. So they can tell you what it is that you sing about, what you do, and who you support, who you don't. Which they can, once you're under contract. I don't know if he signed the contract or not. I hope that he did, but this is from Carlos Garcia. The breakout country star, known as Oliver Anthony, revealed that he has rejected music deals worth as much as $8 million in a statement he posted to address his fans and supporters. Anthony became a star after he posted the song Richmond, North of Richmond on social media. He has since topped the iTunes charts, while critics have tried to drudge up his past to undermine his popularity. Because the song hits way too close to home, he responded to some of the controversy surrounding the song in a statement he posted to Facebook on Thursday. It's been difficult as I browsed through the 50,000 plus messages and emails I've received in the last week. The stories that have been shared paint a brutally honest picture of suicide, addiction, unemployment, anxiety, and depression, hopelessness, and the list goes on, he wrote. He said that he has rejected offers worth millions of dollars. I don't want 6 tour buses, 15 tractor trailers, and a jet, Anthony wrote. Well, I mean, if somebody's offering 15 tractor trailers, I can make a lot of money with those. Hey, right here. Hey, look at me, I understand logistics. I'll take 15 tractor trailers. I won't be using them for what the music industry wants me to use them for, but I'll take 15 tractor trailers. I don't want to play stadium shows. I don't want to be in the spotlight. I wrote the music. I wrote because I was suffering with mental health and depression. These songs have been connected with millions of people on such a deep level because they're being sung by someone who, feeling the words in the very moment they were being sung. No editing, no agent, no bullshit, just some idiot and his guitar, the style of music that we should have never gotten away from in the first place. Based. He also explained why he chose the stage name Oliver Anthony and revealed his legal name. My legal name is Christopher Anthony Lunsford. My grandfather was Oliver Anthony, and Oliver Anthony music is a dedication not only to him, but the 1930s Appalachia, where he was born and raised. Dirt floors, 7 kids, hard times at this point. I'll gladly go by Oliver because everyone knows me as such, but my friends and family still call me Chris. You can decide for yourself. Either is fine, he continued. went on to detail dropping out of high school and getting a GED before working at various blue-collar jobs. So, definitely somebody you should be checking out. I will advocate for him. So, Oliver Anthony. Some more news on the things I like side. More Americans oppose, including trans athletes, in sports full fines. From Matt Levietis. More Americans than before oppose transgender athletes competing in sports that align with their gender identity and say transitioning genders is morally wrong, according to a report from Gallup. Now, as far as I go, I don't really care what you do on your body if you're an adult. If you want to give yourself the whack or dress in women's clothes or whatever it is, and by the way, this typically only goes one way. I mean, if you take the hormones, grow the titties, things like that, if that's the thing that you want to do, that's your business. That's your body. You're probably going to come to regret it someday, and you're probably going to come back and beg me and say, why didn't you stop me, you jackass? But what I'll tell you is what you want to do. That's between you and the doctor. But where I think a lot of people are getting frustrated is not the fact that they want to take a little lop and do this. It's the fact that there are biological differences between men and women. As much as the left will try to tell you that there are not, there are biological differences. Which means that, yes, more muscle mass, bigger lungs, bigger heart, more circulatory system, to make them more aggressive, active, and athletically talented. And this is starting to affect scholarships for young females. And it's not a left-right thing. It's the fact that these kids want to get up into left-wing academia, these young girls, on a scholarship, so they can go back out and not have to pay and have the student loans that the rest of their friends complain that they'll be paying back for the rest of their lives. This is a good thing. Do I think this is going to get the entrenched Hollywood political elite, especially of the progressive movement, out of DC? Absolutely not. Is this a step in the right direction regardless? Yes. Another one from The Blaze. Alabama GOP votes to ban teachers' unions from donating in school-related elections to stifle woke influence, from Candace Hathaway. Last week, the Alabama Republican Party moved to block woke state and national teachers' unions from influencing school-related elections. The Alabama GOP voted to ban teachers' unions from donating to school-related election campaigns to prevent the unions, specifically the National Education Association and the Alabama Education Association, from influencing state policies. John Wall, chairman of the Alabama GOP, said the Alabama Republican Party is leading the charge to decrease the influence of the NEA and their associate groups over the school systems. The new standing rule, passed by an overwhelming majority at 68% to 32%, is similar in style to what a lot of what Governor DeSantis has been doing in Florida to stop woke policies in our classrooms, he added. So while I put this on things that I like, there are some issues that I take with this. And number one of the big ones is you are freeing up a lot more money, because the NEA is going to spend that money no matter what. The National Teachers Union and the Alabama Teachers Union, they have that money set aside to spend, and they are going to spend it. And a lot of this time, they are going to go dump that money. If you're not going to take it, if you give them the finger, they're going to go back and dump that money into your opponent. But one of the things I do like about it is that by doing this, the Alabama GOP is coming out and saying, okay, well, fuck your blood money. I'm not taking this anymore. And that means that you can't come out and say, hey, you remember all that money I gave you? Now I want you to vote the way that I want you to vote. Again, I don't know that it'll have the effect that they're looking for it to have, but it's a step in the right direction again of keeping the special interests out, which I love the fact that our friends on the left keep yelling about the special interests, and then will gladly take all the money from the teachers' union. Let's grab one from Sports Illustrated. Sean McDermott to Sports Illustrated on Damar Hamlin's return. Pretty remarkable. Albert Breer reporting for Sports Illustrated. There's no need to overanalyze it. Damar Hamlin's return to the game field Saturday was the best story of the weekend. It's been a little more than 8 months since the scariest moment most of us have seen on a football field played out in front of the nation, so that Hamill was out there on the field in any capacity is incredible. For the record, he finished with 22 snaps, played on defense, another 4 on special teams, and was in on 3 tackles, including one to stone the Colts offense on a 4th and 1 in the first quarter. But obviously, just the fact that he was out there was the story. Absolutely. We can sit back and argue about the holy jab or certain other medical procedures you can't mention on YouTube, or the pinko pox or anything else off that, but the most important part of the story, he lived. He lived and he's playing football again. I hope that he's being watched and his physical condition is being monitored so we don't have to go through this again, but he lived. And I'm very pro-life in that aspect. A little bit of mockery from Karine Jean-Pierre, the post-millennial with the screenshot that has been deleted. Karine Jean-Pierre, investing in America, and yes, I'm doing the Biden voice on purpose. Investing in America means investing in all of America. And when I ran for president, man, I made a promise that I would leave no part of the country behind, man. Come on. This post has been deleted because it turns out that this was supposed to go to the White House account. Now, as many people have pointed out with this, it's funny that she got mocked, and we'll read just a bit from the New York Post. It is hilarious that she got mocked for this. And we all know for a fact that creepy Uncle Sniffendiddle is not the one that's writing the tweets. They go through a press score, they go back and they screen for what it is that they want to tell the world. And then, yes, Karine Jean-Pierre is on the team of people that puts the tweets out. It's just she forgot to go in and switch out of her official press secretary account and into the presidential account. But yes, we all know that he's not the one that's spreading the propaganda. Briefly, from the New York Post, Karine Jean-Pierre mocked for deleted tweets saying she ran for president. From Victor Nava, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre was mocked on Tuesday for posting a tweet suggesting that she once ran for the presidency. The social media blunder left users scratching their heads, with some wondering if Pierre mistakenly logged into her Twitter account instead of President Biden's to post the tweet. Oh wow, they tweeted from the wrong account. Karine Jean-Pierre has not run for president, at least not to the best of my knowledge, Simon Ateba, Today News Africa's chief White House correspondent, mused. Today we learned that Karine Jean-Pierre is the first black female LGBTQIRAMIGI XTBYAEALU, sometimes Y, president. Conservative commentator A.K. Kamara joked. One of the other avenues for this, and while I do believe that Pierre is probably on the team that comes up with the tweets and organizes them, I would, and this again comes from working with Elaine, who was the social media director for the Jorgensen campaign, and I got to see a little bit of the inside baseball of that. What I am almost positive happened with this is not necessarily that even Karine Jean-Pierre was the one who put this tweet out, it's the fact that the social media campaign manager, or at this point the office social media manager, is the one who's putting out the tweets for at PressSec, at POTUS, at VPOTUS, probably at FLOTUS. That person is probably putting out the tweets for all of these accounts, and this person probably just grabbed the wrong phone at the wrong time. That is 9 times out of 10 what happened. Alright, last couple things that I like, and then we'll shift gears into things that I hate. From CNN Business, Pride Month backlash hurt Target sales. They fell for the first time in 6 years. From Nathaniel Myersone. Target's quarterly sales fell for the first time in 6 years as consumers pulled back in discretionary goods, and fierce right-wing backlash to Target's Pride Month collection took a toll on the brand. Target sales at stores open for at least 1 year dropped 5.4% last quarter, including a 10.5% drop online. The company also cut its annual sales forecast. Target's foot traffic dropped 4.8% last quarter, likely a function of a mix that skews too discretionary, as well as the prime merchandise issues. Michael Baker, an analyst at the D.A. Davidson, said in a note declines. Now, as was pointed out by CNN, there is a twofold part of this. Americans do not have the discretionary money to go back out and run to Target. That's a reality. But this combined with the fact that people don't want to go back out and spend the money at Target. I mean, look at the Budweiser effect, which we'll be talking about in just a second. In a very, very dangerous play of power, Republicans, many of whom, as I keep pointing out, used to be Democrats, found out that boycotts work. And they stopped shopping at these places. And trust me, I understand how that goes entirely. Anybody who's watched this show, especially from the beginning, knows. Even though Burger King is my absolute 100% favorite fast food, I have not eaten there in 5 years. Because they started with the absolute cringe beyond cringe Chick fries ad. And then just about the time I was ready to forgive them for that, they went on the tangent about the lemongrass. And I said, you will never get another dollar from me for as long as you are in business. Now, and a lot of people didn't follow suit on that. I'm a small social media influencer. But what does come from that is once you start to get bigger and bigger brands on board with this, and they decide, and not a single brick was thrown. There were a couple incidences, honk honk, that may have been staged for, well, making right-wingers look bad. But there wasn't a single brick thrown, there wasn't a Target burned, at least not since the St. George riots. There wasn't a window broken, there was no display thrown on the ground, no merchandise vandalized. All that happened is people stopped walking into that store and spending money. And now Target's looking at this, and again, part of this is the fact that they don't have the money to spend it at Target, but now they're looking at a twofold hit, going into a recession of what do? We're losing 5%. So, good job on keeping up the pressure on them. Absolutely good job on that. One more thing that I like. From Fox News, Anheuser-Busch family heir volunteers to buy back the company from its current owners. Make that brand great again. The heir to the Anheuser-Busch company has offered to buy back his family's old company from its parent company if it was looking to sell it. Billy Bush, whose family sold Anheuser-Busch to InBev in 2008, declared that he would be the first in line to buy back the company and make that brand great again. The beer maker, heir, provided the comments on an episode of the conservative host Tommy Lahren Fearless this week. Almost 5 months after the Anheuser-Busch endured a major boycott for making the trans woman, Dylan Mulvaney, one of Bud Light's spokespeople, that's not what the boycott was for. The boycott was, and I will point this out again, now the catalyst that sparked the boycott was the fact that they did the Dylan Mulvaney thing. But that would have been forgiven long, long ago if they hadn't come out 3 days later and said, yeah, we don't want you hicks to be the face of our brand anymore. We want a more sophisticated face of our brand. Now shut up and buy our beer. And try to be more sophisticated. Gee, I wonder why they don't buy the beer. And while it may be cringy, Billy Bush coming back in here and saying that he wants to make that brand great again. I mean, it's a branding idea. He wants to come back out and use the MAGA slogan to pull in the people with the religious fervor and say, hey, if I take this company back over, we'll go back and I won't call you guys toothless hicks like InBev did. So come on, how about it? Come have a nice cold Bud Light with me. Now, will he actually pick it back up? I don't know. I don't know if InBev will let it go. But if they do let it go, and he picks it back up, I do think that would be a nice boost to sales. I don't think that everybody would go back, but I bet you a good 50% of the people would go back to it. Because you'd get in there and you'd apologize and say, look, I'm sorry for the people that we sold it to. They were wrong. That's why I bought it back. They sucked. They called you awful things. I don't want to call you awful things. I just want to make beer for you. Which is the message that Anheuser-Busch should have had that day after the Dylan Mulvaney thing. And now let's do a few things that I hate. From Fox Business, Skittles' new packaging has some calling to boycott with Budweiser treatment. From Greg Winter. And I said this with the M&M's thing too. Why does candy have to be political? And why are you always going out to try to piss off the cons? Because that's what it seems like all these companies are doing. They're like going out of their way to piss off the cons. Half your customer base, by the way. Skittles Candy, which has the slogan Taste the Rainbow, is the latest company to take the heat from consumers because of new packaging that has the phrase Black Trans Lives Matter. Some consumers are calling to boycott the candy company for its woke approach to support the LGBTQI, RAMIGI, XTBY, AEIOU, sometimes Y community. Skittles is a product from the Wrigley Company, which is a division of M&M Mars. When visiting Skittles.com, the top of the page has a clickable option titled Skittles Pride, and when click, the animation says there's a story in every rainbow. We've given up our rainbow so that the LGBTQI, RAMIGI, XTBY, AEIOU, sometimes Y community can share theirs, the company says, this Pride Month. We're amplifying stories within the LGBT, you get the picture, community. For all to discover, we begin by showcasing the designs of 5 talented artists on our Skittles Pride Packs, each with their own story. And again, it just seems like you're going out here and saying, hey, boycott my candy. I don't care about your values, boycott my candy. I didn't like that Anheuser-Busch got political. And that is coming from somebody who doesn't drink Busch products. But everybody's going to try and follow suit, I guess. Another thing that I hate, Teamsters Union pushes for U.S. bankruptcy reform after Yellow's collapse. From Dietrich Knell. Well, you didn't get your way. And your union, by the way, was a part of the reason that that Yellow collapsed. So now you want to come back out and change the rules. The International Brotherhood of Teamsters on Tuesday called for changes to U.S. bankruptcy laws following the Chapter 11 filing of freight trucking company Yellow Corporation, saying the workers must not be left behind when big businesses fail. The Teamsters said that 22,000 of its members were out of work despite making significant concessions on wages and pensions benefits in labor negotiations with the nearly 100-year-old company, which filed for bankruptcy on Sunday. Yellow has blamed the Teamsters' opposition to its internal reorganization efforts for the collapse, but the Teamsters said the members had sacrificed more than $5 billion in wage benefit concessions since 2009 to keep Yellow moving. In reality, you're both wrong. Yellow moved and bought up a lot of smaller companies when bonds were cheap, and it was cheap to go back out and do this, and it was cheap to buy money. And then as freight declined, as fuel prices went up, and as demands went up from the union as well, they just lost a lot of money. And that's the end of the story. Yes, the union was a part of the collapse of Yellow. It wasn't the entire collapse. Bad business decisions in good times. That was the root cause of the collapse. Corporate bankruptcy legislation in the U.S. is a joke, Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien said in a statement. Hardworking people routinely get left behind in this process when they should be at the front of the line to be paid and protected for the sacrifices they made to the American employees. Yeah, but where is the goddamn money going to come from? They filed Chapter 11 because they couldn't make ends meet anymore, because they didn't have the money. And the tax bill, which is probably years behind, and the bank, I'm guessing, took most of what was in the revenue portfolio. It blows, by the way, that the employees are the last in line for that, but I mean, you've got a bloated bank bureaucracy that's backed by the FDIC that has their hand out first, and then the tax man has his hand out before the banks do. In a situation, by the way, that the politicians that you vote for, Teamsters Union, caused and created. So just keep that in mind. From the Blaze, liberal church in St. Louis vandalized with White Lives Matter message. Hoax, hate, what do you want to bet? A liberal church in Missouri was vandalized with the message White Lives Matter spray painted on a brick wall under progressive church posters. The message appeared on Monday underneath posters that read, "Jesus didn't reject people, neither do we, and reject racism at the Grace United Church of Christ in Holly Hills neighborhood of St. Louis." On Tuesday, groups of volunteers tried to clean up the spray paint but were unsuccessful. Hey, you could call Kyle Rittenhouse. He's good at cleaning up graffiti. Residents of the neighborhood spoke out against the vandalism. It's a shame because it's obviously a really welcoming church, and that's actually one of the things I like about this neighborhood. When I was looking for a house here, said Sarah Williams. It's childish. I'm hoping that kids did it, and when they grow up, they won't be doing that anymore. They'll look back and say, "Boy, what an idiot I was," said Mike Steinfeld, who has lived next to the church for 43 years. He said it was uncharacteristic of the neighborhood. That's, well, because they were trying to make a point with it. This is a hoax hate. This is absolutely a hoax hate. And I'd be willing to put money down on the fact that when they do catch whoever did this, they're going to find out it was a member of the church. Is there a GoFundMe? That's usually the indicator. Alright, from the Daily Wire. Republican congressman under fire over attacking Christian woman over her faith, from Daily Wire News. Max Miller faced a backlash this week, our Ohio, by the way, from across the spectrum on the political right after criticizing a woman's social media post in which she professed her reliance in Christian faith. The woman, Republican activist Lizzie Marbach, wrote on X, "There's no hope for any of us outside of having faith in Christ alone. Based." Miller responded, "This is one of the most bigoted tweets I've ever seen. Delete it, Lizzie. Religious freedom in the U.S. applies to every religion. You have gone too far." Violating the First Amendment, by the way. Reminder, a sitting member of Congress trying to compel the speech of a citizen. I don't know if she's one of his constituents or not, but of a U.S. citizen. Miller was widely criticized over the tweet from virtually every corner of the party and across the conservative political spectrum. Do your constituents know that you consider basic Christian teaching to be bigoted? Asked Matt Walsh. They do now. I guess good luck in the next election. Sobiak posted, "Real talk, you're a sitting GOP congressman, yet you have zero tweets about Fannie Willis and the corrupt prosecution." That's probably one of his redeeming qualities, actually, right there. But instead, you decided to take the time today to launch an attack on a pro-life staffer for professing her faith, and you wonder why Republicans lose. Oh, she's a staffer for him. I don't think he intended to do this. I think he screwed up. But it's still tremendously stupid. And he is probably going to get punished for this in the next election cycle, which is good. Alright, a couple more things that I hate and then we're out of here today. Mom refuses to get rid of her daughter's headlights because she's vegan. From Kid Spot, because, I mean, why else would the world do these kinds of things? Usually, when your kid gets headlights, you desperately try every method to try to kill them ASAP. But one Australian mom has taken the opposite approach. She doesn't want to harm the nits at all. And her bizarre reasoning will leave you scratching your head. According to a concerned parent, she wrote in an advice column her neighbor won't treat her daughter's lice because she's vegan and vegans don't kill living things. Hey, I got the common cold, but I'm not going to take any Robitussin for it because I can't kill a living thing. Hey! There are maggots living in a bowl of oil that I accidentally left on my kitchen sink. They smell awful and they're spreading disease all around the house, but I'm not going to do anything about it because that would be killing a living thing. My 7-year-old daughter is best friends with the girl next door, whose family are vegan. That's fine, we respect the choices. My problem is that recently this otherwise delightful child was at our house and scratching furiously and discovered she was crawling with head lice. After mentioning the nits to the girl's mom, the mom said she was aware of them but didn't want to harm them as vegans don't kill living things. She told me she was in the practice of combing the lice and nits into the garden where they had the best chance of survival. The poster continued, and my jaw hit the floor. Yes, because they will be out and about in the rest of the neighborhood. From the Blaze, in a headline that is just too stupid for reality. Chicago gangs asked not to commit shootings between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. No sliding while the sun is out. Brilliant! Hey, why don't you just make it against the law for them to not do any shooting, or for them to shoot people? Why don't you make it against the law for them to shoot people between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m.? I want to remind you, City of Chicago, these gangs out here are not really in the practice of doing what you tell them to do. A community group from the north side is asking gang members not to fire guns or commit any shootings during the daytime. Between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., CWP Chicago reported. A proposal from a community group called the Native Sons, who recently emailed out a newsletter featuring an image that dubbed the People's Ordinance. The group is from an area called Rogers Park, where a gang war between the Gangsters' Disciples and the Black P-Stones in Uptown is believed to have been reignited. Man, am I glad I don't live in Chicagoland anymore. Police recently warned of a strong possibility of retaliatory shootings after 3 men were shot in the Uptown area in late July 2023. The semi-peaceful proposal also had captions such as "No sliding while the sun is out" and "Safe Summer Initiative." My God, why didn't people think of that before? They solved the gang violence. Hey, they solved the shooting epidemic. And the last thing that I hate, just based on the fact that, again, this is government going in and interfering in a retaliatory fashion. From the Daily Wire, the Biden admin investigates Vanderbilt over release of transgender clinic patient records from Brandon Dre. Federal health officials have launched a civil rights investigation into Vanderbilt after the hospital turned over trans-identifying clinic patients' medical records to the Tennessee Attorney General's office. The AG's office is investigating the Nashville-based Center for Potential Medical Billing Fraud connected to the transgender medical treatments for minors. No, they're opening up whatever they can find, throwing it at the wall to see what sticks, because they're pissed off about the fact that they got caught by Matt Walsh. That's what's actually happening here. I'm surprised it took them this long. BUMC Chief Communications Officer John Hauser told the Associated Press last week that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of Civil Rights contacted the medical center just weeks after the 2 patients sued the hospital system, claiming they were among more than 100 current and former patients whose records were turned over to the Tennessee state authorities. God, I don't want to live on this planet anymore. No, that is not me expressing an idea of self-harm, by the way. With as much as I speak out against the government, especially the Biden admin and Hillary Clinton, I do need to preface that. But people do stupid things, and it makes me sad. Alright, let's head out of here. I'm going to throw a link up for you guys yet. Get that link up here so you guys can see. Yes, I will be on Brew's channel once again. This will be the second time in 2 weeks, by the way. We'll be talking about e-thottery out there. So if you guys haven't gone and checked out Brew, Hello Brewtiful, do feel free to go back and check that out. It's going to be a great time. A little bit of a break from the regular news. Let me get that on the Rumble for you. Where's my Rumble link? There it is. Well, let's throw some outro music up and head out of here for the day. Alright, so with that, we're done. We're out of here. Longer than I thought it was going to, but again, if we'd have stayed with the regular news, we'd have been out of here an hour ago. Just, it was that slow of a news day today, but we'll be back here tomorrow with more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. Hey, maybe tomorrow will only be a half an hour show. We don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But again, given the fact that now the Robert L. Peters news came out, means that we will probably see indictment number 5 is coming down the pipes. It's rolling around the bend. I hear that train a-coming. But until then, have a good night. Take care. Hug your families. Enjoy your friends. Give somebody a call. Tell somebody that you care. Maybe have a beer. It's nice outside. It's going to get really, really hot next week, at least here in the Midwest. But yeah, come back and join me here tomorrow for more news, more headlines, and more contemporary. It's going to be an awesome time. Look forward to seeing you guys here with that, and take care. Hope to see you over on Brew's channel. And until tomorrow, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary.